Sorry, dumb luck. All right, so here's what you have. We have homework due today, okay? So if you did not remember, 0.2, 0.3 is due today. So make sure you are getting that done. I know that some people asked for a separate copy. Just make sure you are you're actively trying to get those done. We have two worksheets. The first one, 0.2, that was one where you had to look at numbers and tell me what classification they are. Are they integers, whole numbers, rational, whatever category, and if there's multiple categories, you have to tell me that. The second one is the one we just got yesterday. That was the one where you had integers and the number line. You had to fill in the gaps in a number line, or you had to tell me which number was bigger. Okay? It seemed like everyone had a pretty good handle on that because it was pretty straightforward. There was a couple tricky ones with the number line because you had to figure out the spacing, but everything else seemed like it went pretty easy. Those are due today. At some point today, before 3:30, turn it in. Okay, make sense?
Sure.
Okay, so now, here's what I want to do today. Okay, our outline today. So, just make sure on the first today, the two worksheets we have, two handouts, okay? All right, our outline today is I want to do a couple section review. Now, the reason why we're doing this review is we have a quiz coming out tomorrow. So, we're doing a review today. Again, it's a quiz, not a test. It's just kind of see where you're sitting. Have you been picking up stuff? Have you not forgotten everything we've covered since day one? So it's one of those things like I don't want you forgetting stuff. That's why I try to review as much as possible. We try to go through stuff and I try to bring it back up every now and then. Today is one of those days we're going to review. It's just one of those options. That's why we're sitting in these little pods. We're going to do a little review activity where you move around the room a little bit today. Okay? Here's the sections that we need to cover today to make sure that you remember what we're doing. Number one, factors. How do you break up numbers? Number two, the real numbers and expressions. Real numbers could be anything from what classification it fits into, or the keywords like sum of, difference of, product of. Those keywords, those are the expressions. Okay? The third section, the section we just did yesterday, was integers. Negative numbers, positive numbers, where do they fit in the number line, what are the gaps? Those are the three sections that are going to be on your quiz tomorrow. So keep that in mind. Now, the topics, here they are. Okay, for factors that we're going to cover today, we're going to cover the factor tree and prime factorization. Okay, that's what I want to make sure that we cover. Expressions, when we get to that part, it's the keywords, right? What does, increased by mean? What does quotient of mean? Real numbers, how to classify them. Is it an integer? Is it a whole number? What type is it? And then the last ones are integers and number lines. Can you tell me, the missing value of a number line? Sorry, excuse me. Can you calculate absolute value? Do you understand what those little bars mean? And do you understand the inequality symbols? Those are your topics that are on your quiz tomorrow. Okay, again, I will post this online tonight. I'll try to post this video right after school today. I'm going to stick around until it's online. That way, if you need to watch this video over again to review so you're not like totally lost, you can go back and kind of watch each part. Okay, so let's talk about the sections that we're in. Okay, the first section, I'm going to try to do this in about a minute. Okay, the first section, which is based on factors. Okay, the definition of factors, how you break numbers down. So, for instance, the factor tree. So if you're taking notes, this would be a good thing so you know what to do in your activity today. So to do a factor tree is to break down a number into all the numbers you know multiply to give you that. So the factor tree that you should be doing today in your little groups today should look like this. For the number 20, you know that 1 and 20 both go to 20. Those are two factors. Those numbers multiply together to give you the number 20. Another set is the number 2 and 10. Those multiply to give you 20. Another set, 3 doesn't work, 3 doesn't go into 20, but 4 does, 4 times 5.
And then 5.
Okay? Or 5 and 4, however you want to say it, yeah. So those are my options. Those are the ones that obviously multiply to give me 20. Questions at all about the different factors? That's a factor tree. You're listing every group of numbers that can possibly work. I'm not going to pick crazy numbers. I'm picking something small enough you can do them really quickly. Numbers you probably know. Now, the other type is called prime factorization. This is where you go down to prime numbers only. So the prime numbers, if you don't know, is 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, blah, 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 blah. Well, if I give you an example, let's say like the number 24. We could break down that number into primes. Because what you do is you check the number 2. Does 2 go into 24? Yes, it does. It goes in there 12 times. You break down 12 even further. Well, 2 goes into that again. 2 and 6. You break down 6 even further. 2 and 3. And here's all of your prime factors. It looks like a hockey stick.
Are we going to get a calculator for the quiz?
Yeah. Wait. I'll have to check. I think so. I have to check. So I have to see kind of what the standard was. All right. Questions on what prime factorization looks like. How you break down to prime numbers. Okay. Now here's the thing. If you haven't already, I would definitely write down those 2 examples. The reason being, when we get to our little activity today, you need to know which type is which, and you have to do it on the fly. So write down that example, that's factor tree. Write down that one, that's prime factorization. You need to have both written down somewhere. I'll give you 30 seconds to write that down if you haven't already.
What? Oh, the one uses the sock.
Yeah, the one uses the sock, the other one is just listing everything out without the sock. Okay, you gotta know the difference.
You want to tell us if it's a prime factor?
Yep, it'll say very explicitly, do a factor tree,
Okay.
do a prime factorization. Yep,
Can you use your notes on please?
nope, never do.
Wait, so we can't use like the prime chart?
Prime chart, I'll probably have the prime numbers on the board somewhere. That's something I won't have you memorize, I'll probably have it somewhere up here. But again, you do need to know what the 2 methods are, because the number one thing I always get from people is, well, I don't remember which one's which. Write these down, so you know it right now, we can practice it today a couple times.
Okay, I have a question about
Yes.
something else. Alright, so like, you know a number in brackets that we talked about yesterday?
Yes,
If it's positive and if it's in brackets and
it's still positive.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, those are absolute value pairs, yep, absolutely. Okay, questions at all? We're gonna actually get to that one later. All right, does anyone still need the example?
No.
Okay, I'm about to erase them. All right, let's go to the next category. The next topics. I'm trying to go through these as fast as I can. That way you get some practice on each type today. So you're not lost, you can ask me questions. Okay, the next one is expressions. Now obviously we had a lot of keywords. I don't expect you to have the whole list memorized, but I do expect you to recognize a word and know what it's saying. So the keywords were these 4. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So if I gave you certain keywords, let's say I said the word sum of. Which category does that fit in?
Multiplication.
Ooh. Multiplication? Addition. Ooh, addition? Which one?
Addition.
It's addition. Sum means to add. Or what about increased by?
Addition.
Addition, right? You know some of those keywords. You can recognize what word says. Now, obviously the ones that I'm worried about. Sum of is one of them, because some people tend to forget. This one's probably the easiest one. Difference of. Yep, that one's subtraction. Product of.
Not multiplication.
Multiplication. For some reason, a lot of people always get this one and sum of switched around in their head. And then quotient of.
Division.
Yeah. Those are the big ones. Those are probably the ones that most people don't have in their vocabulary. We have to like talk about them so that you can recognize them.
Wait,
Now-
difference of is subtraction?
Yep, subtraction. Yep. Now, what you would do with this, what I would give you is I would give you a simple sentence. Something like the sum of 6 and a number. And what you have to do is tell me what does that actually mean. What does sum of mean again?
Addition.
Addition, so you're doing 6 and a number. You're doing addition with 6 and a number. Do you recognize what you have to do here? You have to write down kind of what the algebra was telling you when you read that little tiny sentence. That's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to recognize the keyword. Do you understand what it's telling you to do? It's telling you to add, subtract, multiply, or divide those those things. Questions on what expressions you're going to be asked to do today? Again, we're going to get tons of practice with this today, so don't feel like I'm leaving you on an island. The goal is to give you some practice time, then bring it back and we're going to look at all the answers. So you can actually see if you did it right or wrong, so you're not stressing out about it. You'll get the answer before you get to leave. Okay, we're good so far?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to the next topic. Next topic. Oh. Real numbers. We talked about the different classifications. Natural, 1, 2, 3, 4. No decimals, nothing. Talked about whole numbers. It's the same category as the naturals. 1, 2, 3, 4, but they add the number 0. No decimals still. Integers, negatives and positives, no decimals, no fractions. So these categories are all kind of one and the same. They're just kind of ramping up. They're adding more and more numbers. Rationals are anything that's positive and negative, that's decimals or fractions. And irrational numbers are numbers that never end. So on this particular category, this is ones where you probably need a calculator. So Darg, to answer your question, you probably will get a calculator tomorrow because, number one, we probably need it for that one to understand if it's a irrational number or not. Okay, questions on the different categories? Okay.
How do we tell if it's irrational?
Irrational, when whatever number I give you, let's say I gave you the number, one of the examples we did in class was like the square root of 17. I think that was on one of our things. If you type that in your calculator, now to get square roots, we have a little square root button on your calculator, or one of my calculators if you have it. To get that little button right here, you hit the little shift key and hit the little square key, and then you type in 17, hit enter, and it would tell you this crazy number like 4.13, blah, 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 and it'll just be these crazy numbers across the screen, okay? Well, the idea is that if it tells you a bunch of numbers across the screen, is that number even ending? That's an irrational number. Irrational numbers like pi don't end. So you'll be able to recognize it because the number on the screen won't end. It'll just keep going, it'll be completely random. If it repeated, like you notice there's a pattern, it's repeating over and over and over, that would be a rational number. But your calculator will tell you, just divide the numbers or type in the little square root thing. So you'll have to be able to use a calculator tomorrow. Now obviously, here's the thing, how many people are in this room right now? 17 maybe? There's 17 people in here? I have 10 calculators. You're probably going to want to bring one of them. Just saying. Okay? Alright. Let's go to this last slide here. Last category. Integers and and the number line, I should say. Integers are any positive, negative number on the number line. Do you have that number line in your head? Positives go to the right, negatives go to the left. Bigger numbers go to the right, smaller numbers go to the left. Right? Do we understand the inequality symbols? Here they are. Do we understand how that symbol works? If I gave you two numbers, let's say like 17 and a -3, which number is bigger?
17.
17, right? It's further to the right on a number line. So you have to pick one of these symbols.
So what is the greater negative?
Okay, so these symbols, two of them match. The little bar underneath could be equal to. So it's kind of like an equal sign. To me, like these two symbols are exactly the same symbol. They're interchangeable. So like if you're looking at this problem, you recognize that 17 was a bigger number. I could use either one of these symbols because why I put this symbol like that, or maybe the one with the bar, doesn't matter which one you picked, is because the bigger end faces the bigger number. The smaller end faces the smaller number. Does that make sense how it works? I don't care if you use the one with the bar or the one without the bar. It just means equal to versus just strictly greater than. So these are basically the same symbol. Those are the inequalities. I think you had to do that in that worksheet, the 0.3 we're supposed to do today.
Yeah, you did.
Yep. And the last one we talked about was absolute value. This is the question that Darg even brought up. Do we understand what those little bars tell you? That you're getting a positive answer, right? So if they have like a 14 on the inside of the bar, your answer is a positive number. It's the number inside. So if I told you the absolute value of -7, just 7, right? It's just the positive answer. That's the idea. Okay, questions with any of the topics currently? Okay, now, I know that some of you are like, you're more comfortable with other topics than the other ones. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna get some practice. We're gonna go into like a group activity where we're gonna move around the room. The group that you have in front of you, is the group that you're gonna travel with. Now, it doesn't matter if you work together, or if you work by yourself, as long as you have some people you can chat with or, ask questions or kind of check your answer. So what you're gonna have 4 stations. There's gonna be one station that's just factoring, breaking numbers up, practicing that. There's gonna be one station that's doing real numbers, classifying. There's a station where I give you expression sentences, and you have to tell me what that sentence actually said. And integers, the last one, is where you either fill in a number line or you tell me which number is bigger. These are your 4 categories. There's literally 4 pods in this room. Okay, here's how it works. You're gonna get 4 minutes at each station. Now, it doesn't matter if you finish it or not, I want you to try. I'm gonna give you paper to work on. I would like you to write every answer on this and put your name on it. You're gonna get points for it even if you get it right or wrong. Because I don't want you worrying about if you get it right or wrong, I want you to try it. Put your name on this, you're gonna do all of your answers on this as you travel from pod to pod. 4 minutes, I'll tell you to rotate. At the very end of class, the last 10 minutes of class, we're gonna check every answer. So you know when you walk out, you know exactly what your answer should have been. Does that make sense? Then you're gonna turn this in. Okay. Yep. So put your name on it. I'll give you your problems here in a second. And then you're gonna get 4 minutes. Oops, sorry. Then you're gonna get 4 minutes to try the problems that are at your desk. I'll give you papers you can work on. Okay, so here we go. You guys get integers. Here you go.
Yay.
They're all the same problems. There you go. There's all 4.
That was loud.
Okay. You guys get verbal expressions. So you get a sentence. Tell me what that sentence is saying. Okay, you guys get the numbers, the classifications, what category they fit in. And you guys get factors. You have to break up numbers into smaller groups. Okay, calculators are right there.
Like,
I'll say yeah, it's looking like that. Okay. Alright, here you go. We'll use calculators. Okay. Hey, you have 4 minutes. Try the problems that are in your worksheet. Write down all of your answers on your little note card. Remember, you're traveling from pod to pod to pod on that one note card. So don't write super big because you got to put all the answers from the other pods on it.
You got a pencil.
Yeah.
let's see, dark.
You might have to use a pen, which is fine. Here you go. Everyone stole my pencils yesterday. Okay. You have about 3 minutes.
The sum of 6 and the number, so would that be right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all you do. And then just move to the next
Oh.
one. You're just writing down what that sentence is saying in like algebraic form. And again, discuss it with each other so you understand. Now, when you're gonna get up and move, you're gonna leave the little like cards, the papers at your desk that say your category, like real numbers or factors or the integers. You're gonna leave those where you're at. You're just gonna move to the next pod, so take your note card with you. If you're at the factor station, leave the calculators where they sit. Okay? That way the next group won't be.
Yeah.
You have about 2 minutes. You're halfway done. At your little station. Again, some stations are a lot easier than the others.
No, for 30.
For 3, oh, that would be independent.
So some stations you'll get a little bit of time where you can work on the other ones that you didn't finish maybe. I think the hardest station here is probably the factor station. It takes the longest. Here, we'll break them up.
Just dance.
Dark. Okay, I got mine. Quite easy. Here, if you need those.
Do you wish yours, Mary?
We did it? Oh.
Is your F-1 James, your F-1 50?
Okay, less than a minute. So try to finish up the problem that you're on. Try to do as many as you can. From that, maybe you don't get them all, but you can try as many as you can. Because we're going to go through the answers at the very end of class.
Do we go to that?
Yeah, so we're going to rotate counterclockwise. So you go there, you guys go there, you guys go here.
Why do you have a camera on this?
But
Why do you have it right there?
just so you can see kind of what you guys do.
Just need to skip over.
It's not watching you personally. It's, what was that?
It won't stop everything.
How am I gonna lift it up?
So,
Yeah, and then I'm holding the gun and then
Okay.
I give out.
Alright, let's get up. Let's rotate. You guys go to this station, you guys here, here, and you guys move to this station over here. Leave the papers where you're at, take your note card with you. Okay, you have 4 minutes. I have the timer up here on the board so you kind of know. You are doing what the new station is asking you to do. Remember, take your note card, write small enough because you have 2 more stations after this one to go to. So you guys are looking at the sentences that I provided you and try to write down like the algebra that it said. You're not solving anything, you're just writing down what is that sentence even saying. Are you like adding 2 things, are you like subtracting? Like write down what the algebra was. You guys just tell me which classification it fits into or every category it fits into.
These,
Who's phone?
can be irrational.
No. Irrational is only if they never end and never repeat. You guys are taking each of those numbers and breaking it down. So the first are you doing factor trees, every number that can possibly work. And then the last problem you're trying to figure out the biggest number that they both share. Now if you don't get them done, that's fine. Just you have calculators and brains and use those. And then you guys are looking at which number's bigger, obviously. And then the last 2 you're trying to fill in those number lines that are right that fit those gaps.
Wait, Mr. Ward, can you come
Yes.
here? So what do we do here?
So you guys read that first sentence, right? So it goes the sum of 6 and a number, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to write down what was the algebra that that's saying. So like what is sum
So
of?
would it be like, so we just do add?
Yeah, so you go add, but you write down what the algebra was. So like what would it be written as in like an algebraic form?
It would be like 6 plus 9.
There, that's what you write.
What's 6 plus that?
6 plus x or something like that. That's what you're writing. You're writing down like what the algebraic form was. Yeah, super easy. You guys are fine through. So there, let's see the first one. What do you think? Yeah, like that. That's exactly right. Now move to the next one. You're just writing down like the generic form of it. Yeah, because remember, some of those can fit in multiple categories. So just write down every category can possibly fit.
-10 can be a
Is
natural.
that the second one?
No, this is negative. So, natural numbers are only positive. Got about 2 minutes, you're about halfway done. Again, some of these stations are way more difficult than the others. Because you're gonna need more time, like the factor station to me takes a long time. Some of these others are really quick. And this is kind of like what your quiz would look like. It's probably something like this. Now, the factor station, I did provide you a calculator to help you out, speed the process.
I thought you did you do volleyball? You did it last year, didn't you? Oh.
About a minute left here, a little over.
Is it like the tennis or like a
Sorry. Why is the camera right here?
Just so you can watch the general movement of the room.
He's looking at me right in the eye.
Okay, about 45 seconds. All right, wrap the problems you're on. All right. Just try your best. We're gonna go through all the answers in a little bit. I just want you to get some practice at it.
Your bone? You're gonna bring a knife to school?
No!
That's my stuff.
I have met a boss.
All right, let's get up and move. Let's move to your next station. You only got 2 more stations. You got this one and the next one that you're moving to. Remember, try to write down. So what you guys are doing, you're reading your sentence, and you're trying to write down, like, what was the algebra of that sentence saying? You're not solving it, you're just like, what did that sentence say? So if it said the sum of, what does that mean? Sum of? Means adding, right? So you're just taking the 2 things they said and just put adding in between, and then just move to the next one. So you're just writing down like this a lot.
No,
Okay, converse with each other, like figure it out. If you think it is, you can ask me questions. Okay, you guys, each classification I can fit in. Now, some of them have multiple names you can fit in, so don't feel like you only have to write down one, but there'll be multiple words you can write down. Okay, you guys are taking the numbers that provide you and breaking them to like the top of number 12. You're trying to break down all the numbers that multiply you have.
6 plus 9.
Okay? You're writing down that list.
Either one.
30 and 16. The bottom problem, what you're doing in that one is you're trying to figure out the biggest number that they both share. Okay? Use your calculator. If you have calculators in front of you, use those. Help yourselves out. This one, on the first one, you're trying to figure out, or the first 2 I should say, you're trying to figure out what numbers there. So the last 2 questions, you're trying to figure out the gaps, all the blanks that are missing. Write down the numbers that
You didn't do it, so why do you have to try to combine them?
So, what do we get on the first one?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you're telling me that you know what you're adding, you have the 2 parts and just moving the next one. Super easy, you're not solving it right now.
The question or number?
Like at that point, that's like a whole splash in your bag.
Meditation? Yeah, it's very straightforward. The only tough one is the back. Meditation's tough. Got about 2 minutes left here. 2 minutes. And again, if you didn't finish up one from another group, you can always go back and see if you need to finish it.
You're like barely tall.
How many teeth did you
About a minute left here.
Oh, what did you did?
I know where
Well,
or it's not running something else. I did not drive over. I didn't hear a word you said. Were you like biggest man on the
So you never see that?
30 seconds. The backs are really weak. These red ones, yeah, don't break them. But yeah, the backs, like you can lean too far, and then after that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, what's up with this thing?
Yeah, they're rough. It's a poor test. The new ones are the blue ones. I think I got one new blue one this year, and then I'll start kind of rotating. So, yeah.
No, those ones
The
are
tests are terrible. Okay, all right, let's stand up, let's rotate. This is your last group. Last station. Okay, so what you guys are doing, you're reading down the sentences that I have right in front of you, and all you have to do is write down what the algebra was. You're not solving anything. You're just writing down, like, what did that mean? So like in the first one, it says sum of, what does sum of mean? Addition. So you're just telling me what you're, like, the 2 things you're adding, and then just move to the next one. You're not solving, you're just writing down the algebraic, like, what it looks like as a math problem. Okay, you guys are just telling me what each number is and what classification is. Can you help me?
No.
Yeah, so try to put all the ones that apply to that number. Okay, so, because some of those could have like multiple names.
Did you guys get your stories?
You guys are trying to break down, so those first three, you're trying to break down all the numbers that multiply to give you each of those numbers. The last problem, number, I guess the bottom one, we're trying to figure out the biggest number that they both share. Now, obviously you guys have calculators in front of you.
Just write down like addition, multiplication.
And then you guys, so you guys on your top two, you're just trying to figure out what inequality symbol you put, like which number's bigger basically. And in the bottom problems, you're just filling in all the gaps, where all the gaps and trying to figure out the numbers that fit. Okay. Again, this is what your quiz is going to look like. Very similar types of problems. So some of these stations are pretty straightforward or easy. That's good. You'll get a lot of points there. There's certain ones that probably you're not comfortable with. That's why we're going to review it here on the board.
Alrighty.
Wow, that was really.
You just like stuck with the name. You like really didn't care.
Got 2.5 minutes left.
I told her like all last year, so now I'm used to it.
It's like Mason called Big Bro Mason. Big Bro.
What's it?
Right.
She cut her. She wasn't even part of it. She couldn't.
Did she cut her after you finished on her? Is this the one that AJ? So she was on the
Yeah,
board.
she was just laying there.
And then she just went like this? Gotcha. No, that's not okay. Then.
What?
I got it.
Not like this.
At the bottom.
I don't know. I always forget.
Okay, a little less than 2 minutes. Oh, yeah. No,
But like I
oh,
can
actually,
hit,
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna-
It's fine. I can hit, you can't hit me because it's weak.
But you're handicapped.
It's only irrational if the number doesn't end. So if you can look at a number and you know it ends, it's not
You're the
irrational.
one who steals our partner.
Yeah.
Irrational is only very rare cases. You
I can
probably
do
see
it.
She's the one that
I'm
steals
gonna
her.
buy a handicap
like a
sign.
type of square root.
Oh my
She's the one that steals her
Certain type
grandma's
of,
handicap sign, so she
that's
keeps
why
getting
you're
her.
No, I can hardly hit my drawing because both my parents are handicapped. My dad is, so no. I don't know, something about his back.
130. Yeah, I mean, it's actually.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't care about the field line.
That's horrible. You're a horrible dog. What's wrong with your mom?
I don't know.
She's just like, she just been very, she's like walking.
Don
She got like a brain disorder.
They spell it Don. Oh. That she. Okay, alright, here's what you need to do. Go back to your original tables. If you had calculators, I'm gonna take those.
You just guess which side you're driving on.
If you have calculators, I'm gonna take
No
them.
cars hit me on fire.
It was only the one group had.
Because we're gonna start.
Okay, alright, go back to your tables. We're gonna go through all the answers in less than 5 minutes.
Blind person.
Louis Brill.
James on it.
Louis Brill.
She just made it. Wait, can you even see?
You don't know who Louis Brill is?
Are you like Kevin's
You don't know who Louis Brill is? No. Person that invented Brill.
Okay, alright. Hey, we're gonna go through these insanely fast. Keep up. You can make fixes on this, because remember, I'm not checking with your right or wrong. I want you just to get an idea, you get some practice with it. You can see if you did it right or wrong, you can make a fix. Because I'm not checking for accuracy, I just want you to get some practice with it. You'll get points for doing this no matter what today. Now, here's the idea. Factor tree, this is one of the first groups, I think it was the group that was back there, correct? Alright, so for the factors, you had to break them all up. So like for the number 12, the number 12 is 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Those are all the factors that multiply to give you 12. For the number 30, it was 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Those are all the numbers that work to give you 30. And for the number 16, it was 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Those are your only options.
I'm good at that.
Hey, the last category for 12 and 16, the biggest number that they both share for 12 and 16, if I look at this list and I go over here and I look at 16, the biggest number they share was the number 4. Okay, does that make sense what we're doing there? That's something that hopefully you feel more comfortable with by tomorrow. Again, I'll post this video as early as right after school today to guarantee that you can watch it if you want to. Some people don't, it won't offend me, but some people like that. They can review it over and over and over to make sure that they know what they're doing. Does that make sense for the factors? Okay, again, you'll have a calculator tomorrow because you'll need them for the irrational numbers, so keep that in mind. Questions on that first one? That was the first group. Okay, I think that was the hardest group, that's why I did it first.
Yep.
That's the one probably most people like questions on. Okay, let's go to the next group. Sorry, I'm gonna go really fast. All right, I wanna get these done before you have to leave, so here we go. Next group, we have to figure out the categories these fit into. 12, it's a natural, it's a whole, and it's an integer, there we go. And it is a rational number. It is every single category except for irrational because the number ended. Negative 10 is an integer because it's negative, and it is also a rational number. It ended, so it's not irrational. 2/5 is rational, it's a fraction. Easiest thing in the world. It ended as a fraction, so it's rational. The last one, this is just a rational number. The reason why it's negative, so it had to be an integer rational, and since it's a decimal, it's automatically rational. It's not an integer because it's a decimal. Questions on those? Okay, now if we're doing the quiz tomorrow, I would expect those words to be on the board or they'd be on the top of that worksheet so you know how to spell it correctly. Okay? I'll eventually.
You still have categories to go through, Angel.
Okay, alright, next one. Next category. Sorry, I'm going really fast. I want to make sure you get these all done. Okay, these categories. All you have to do is write the algebra that represented that sentence. The first one, sum of 6 and a number. 6 plus a number. That's the sum of it. 8 times a number, so 8 times a number minus 12. Okay? Next one, the quotient. That means division. A quotient of a number and 17. You can write it like that with division, or some people like to write it like this. You're dividing a number by 17. I don't care which one you put. The last one, a number subtracted from 284. Here's 284, and you're subtracting a number from it. You had to write it like that. If you had it backwards, that's actually technically wrong. That's the only rare case, because subtracted from you have to switch it around. You're taking the number from 284. All right, we're good so far. Okay, last category. I'm gonna erase those, sorry, I'm going kind of fast. Bell bump go off. Yes, got another minute. All right, we're good? Okay, here we go. Okay, got less than a minute. Last category. Okay, you have to fill in the symbols. Negative 14 is a larger number than negative 16 because it's to the right. 5 is obviously a larger number than negative 1. On the bottom, this is 6, 10, and 14. The bottom ones down here, this is 15, 30, and 35. There you go. Okay, now, this. If you want to keep it, because some people like to study this, you can, but I do want this back by tomorrow then. Because if you want to turn it in, I'll take it right now, but I want this turned in by tomorrow, so that way you get points. But if you want to keep it, I totally understand. Because some people like to study it tonight.
I got scoliosis.
Wait, so you're your mom, I mean, your dad.
I think this has my You got the homework. Like, why not?